You can always find the podcast online at GoBlueWolverine.com. I know folks aren't in the mood to necessarily hear about recruiting right now, but we have been getting in contact with the commitments to the class. There's been concern amongst the fan base about how solid some of those guys would be in light of the losses. So we have, we talked to a number of guys already. Got another one coming today with Lawrence Marshall. Going to be talking to Jabril Peppers a little bit later on today. We just talked to Jared Wangler this weekend, talking to those guys about how they're doing and what the other guys in the class are saying. And at this point, the guys are holding solid, are holding tight, and really setting up for a big visit weekend coming up the second weekend in December. We'll talk more about that on GoBlueWolverine.com. In the meantime, in between time, I want to welcome the panel back, minus Stan Edwards. Stan had to step out on this Sunday morning, but we have Tom Beaver on the phone and Marcus Ray here in the studio. So what I was doing before we went to the break, Marcus, was setting up a locker room dynamic. Not saying that that's how it should be, like the defense should come into the room and say, hey, offense, what the hell are you doing? Saying that it's inevitable that you're going to have some guys that look over and say, well, doggone, that's where Marcus Ray or whoever it is on that team. On this team, it would be Taylor Lewan, it'd be Jake Ryan, it'd be those guys say, like, hold up, fellas. Can't point to the other side, like you said, the mindset. Let's keep looking in the mirror about what we can do better.
Well, you make a great point. I don't know if this team has if this team has the DNA to walk into that locker room, because I'm not there. I can only speak on when I play, but this team just needs leadership at every position group. That's what we had in 97. It was just we had our captains, but every position had a leader. Brian quarterbacks. I had defensive backs, Sam linebackers, Glenn Steele the D-line, Jansen with the O-line. So, my thing is when one side of the ball is not playing well, all right, you have to continue to do what you're doing if you are playing well to buy them some time. That's all Michigan State did in September defensively. It took their offense a month to pull it together, and they still haven't been consistent. But, see, I got to get back to something else. Like, when you're giving up 5 yards a carry on defense, you're still not playing well enough. And that's to Mark Wiseman. And when their backup, Kanzeri's going for 4.2 a carry, one run for 12 yards, Wiseman had a run for 22 yards, you really can't look at the other side of the ball and say, because you still gave up 7 points in the first half yourself. So that locker room dynamic that you're talking about comes with self-improvement and self-accountability where, yeah, we're playing well right now, because then the offense could have did the same thing in the second half and said at the end of the fourth quarter and said, come on, defense. We put up some points for you in the first half. You can't hold them off a little bit longer. So that's where Michigan is right now.
734-998-1050. Tweet us at Michigan Insider. Email us at studio@WTK.com. We will squeeze in a few phone calls here, and we'll talk to Tony, who's somewhere in Michigan. Tony, what's up?
Hey, fellas, how you guys doing?
Doing all right.
I'm just I don't know where we go from here, Sam, Marcus. I'm hearing people talk about how, our offensive line, and we hear now we've got one game left, our offensive line hasn't become a cohesive unit. I'm hearing that people saying Devin's staring down receivers and not being able to check off. I'm hearing that our running backs can't run block, and we got a fifth year with Fitz still not being able to run block. And I'm just want to know, at what point, in you guys' opinion, at what point do you say, hey, and I know you guys talked about this the past few weeks. At what point do you say, hey, we need to make some personnel changes on the offensive side of the ball, because apparently we have development issues on that side of the ball, because some of these guys that's coming in, these were some highly talented, like Devin was a highly talented guy coming in out of high school. And for him to have these problems in his fourth year, that has to be a development issue. I'm not understanding why in his fourth year that people are saying he's staring down receivers, unable to make adjustments at the line of scrimmage, proper adjustment at the line of scrimmage, and not being in check off. And we got Fish, who's a fifth-year running back, can't run block. I just want to get you guys' opinion on it, and I'll hang up and listen.
Well, my opinion is you don't just now start looking at coaches. I think that's something that you've been doing. This isn't a situation when they have the kind of ineptitude that we've seen offensively, inconsistency that we've seen offensively. You can't just point just at the players and say it's all you. It's all everyone. Now, how much of it is the players? How much of it is the coaches? That's a Brady Hoke question. That's an assessment that he has to make. I'm not there to know. I'm not in the practices to know. How much of what we're seeing on the football field on game day just isn't translating from the practice field, or is it what we're seeing on game day is what you see on the practice field? Those are questions that I don't have the answers to. So I don't know.
Well, from a development standpoint, I don't think we've seen more than two players from Brady Hoke's first three recruiting classes step out or stand out and say, I'm going to be that guy, or that third-year true junior that's out here just ripping it up, or even that second-year sophomore besides Funches. Your best players still come from the last regime, from your running back to your tackle to your quarterback to Jake Bryan, and there's a couple other guys. But when you don't develop, then it means regardless of who you bring in here in recruiting, whether on paper out of high school, if you're 5 stars or 10 stars, if you don't develop, you become an average guy if you aren't that special. So Charles Woodson, like I told you the other day, he was a running back. He could not backpedal. Vance Bedford converted him in 3 weeks of coaching. He converted me 4 weeks of coaching from a linebacker type guy to an All-American caliber safety. So you have to understand, if you don't develop the talent when you get it, this is the product that you're going to see. And speaking of Funches, he's not even on the leading receivers list in this stat column right now, Sam. He had his opportunity, dropped the ball. Yeah, he's young. He's a sophomore. They're doing a lot of different things with him, but he dropped the football. So he didn't play well. He's been inconsistent. And he's probably your best football player as far as skill-wise. And then the other thing, too, that Michigan lacks is big playability. See, Iowa didn't throw the ball very well either, but they had a 55-yard touchdown pass. That takes up half the field on one play. Their second leading receiver, Fedorowicz, had a touchdown, and a tight end had a 25-yard reception. Our longest reception, 14 yards. So when you start to look at some of the intangibles or hidden yardage or things that people don't really account for, it all adds up to a 24-21 loss.
I thought Funches was an example of playing into the wind on a cold day, that he's not quite there mentally yet, toughness-wise yet. That's where it showed up to me. He's gonna make those catches on a warm day in the big house.
734-998-1050. Tweet us at Michigan Insider. Email us at studio@WTK.com. Let's go out to Belleville and talk to Randy. Randy, what's up?
Good morning, gentlemen.
What's up,
man, only thing I've got to say is, Marcus, you were hitting everything that I've been saying yesterday, man, screaming at my TV on the head, man. Let's talk about the real main issue right now. The real main issue is our two mortal enemies will be playing in Indy. I mean, that is a sad state of affairs. Our two mortal enemies will be playing in Indy. Somebody talked about, whether or not what you see at practice is what you see on the field. I've never gone to a practice, but I can just about imagine that there probably is. Marcus, you talked about strength and the strength development aspect, strength and conditioning. Look, great defensive linemen make great offensive linemen, and vice versa. The fact that our offensive linemen are getting run over, pushed over, is because our defensive linemen can't push them, can't bounce them around in practice. And what you see there translates onto the field. If we get a great defensive line that can push, that can penetrate, then our offensive line will learn better on what to do so that they can live up to what they're facing every day in practice. The other thing I want to say is Man, I sure hope we're not planning on making this a big recruiting weekend because seriously, from what I've seen, it's just I know you guys said earlier you think it's going to be a close game. I don't think so. What I'm not seeing is people playing with pride. I am not seeing that this is Michigan. I will die and fight to the death on the field for this university, for my team, because this is Michigan. This is the standard. And I'm not seeing that toughness, man. I think too many of these guys are believing in their stars and all that kind of stuff coming out. I think they're not being developed. I think it's time. Where's Soup at? Didn't Louisville let Soup go? It's time to bring Soup back.
You mean Iowa? Iowa let Soup go.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Iowa. Then they let Soup go. It's time to find Soup. Scott Loeffler. Where's he at? He's at Virginia Tech as a QB coach and OC. It's time to go make an offer to him because I watch Devin and his head never moves. I'm watching from my living room, man. His head never moves. He looks at the receiver all day. DBs are trained. Hey, just follow his eyes. His head never moves.
we got you, Randy. It gets back to the attitude that you were talking about, Marcus.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, he made some great points. When you bring in those, I try to stay away from the whole who you bring in as a coach or who you get rid of. I just more so look at
grass is greener. Grass is always greener.
It always is, Tom.
Play the rookie scrub, and he'll be better than your star in the field.
Well, the thing about Michigan, when you saw him against Notre Dame, was the stage was set for a primetime performance. It was like, the last home game, and then Notre Dame is the chickens, and it's Michigan Notre Dame game day. Everybody's here. It's wonderful, and those kids rose to the occasion. So, this offense hasn't been bad all year. They played well against Notre Dame, still turned it over a few times. They lit it up against Indiana, still put up 40 against Penn State. They gave you 20, or 14-ish last week. But when it comes to strength and conditioning, I think that's something we haven't really touched on. I don't know if it's youth. I don't know if it's a system. All I know is when you can't recreate the line of scrimmage and you say you have talent, you say you have experience at tackle, and those guys still aren't pushing people around. When you can't run the ball to save your life and you're a Michigan offense, that's strength and conditioning or it's toughness. That's not even coaching. Because if you had strong guys, real strong, athletic kids that were just mean and nasty, I don't care what your scheme is, you're going to pound people 4 and 5 yards of crack. Just go ask Wisconsin. Go ask Ohio State, who has 4 seniors on that line and a running back who's running like he's trying to get out of poverty or something like that, like he's trying to play on Sundays. It's a strength and conditioning, toughness thing because we hate Al as fans whenever he doesn't coach well, but then we love him once we see what the offense can potentially do. So which one is it, fans? Is it you want Al to be out of here and you bring in another guy, but when you lack toughness, a certain brand of guy up front, I don't care who you bring in to coach them. I can coach the defensive backs with my mentality and my 10 years of knowledge, but if I got some kids that aren't tough or probably can't get it done, I'm going to look bad too. So to answer your question earlier, how much is it is coaching? How much is it players? It's 50-50. It's 50-50. Half on the players because they're out there, half on the coaches because that's who's responsible for them, 100% on Brady Hoke to have to figure it out. But I think it's a strength and conditioning thing. Whenever we had Mike Gittleson, we smacked people. We had 5-star linemen back in 91, 88. It's no different. John Jansen was a big-time guy coming out. So was Jake Long. And even if they weren't, they developed. Look at the last year first pick in the draft, the offensive lineman. What's his name?
Kid from Central Michigan. Help me out. Kid from Central Michigan. You guys know him.
Eric is Fisher.
Yeah,
Eric
there you go.
Fisher.
There you go. Thanks, Ryan.
Fisher.
Appreciate you.
See, he had 2 offers coming out of high school. Okay, Eastern and Central. I was at Central when we recruited him.
He was like a 230-pound tight end, right?
The last regime didn't think he was good enough. Looked at his frame, but give that coaching staff at Central Michigan a MAC school. That's why they're at Tennessee now. Cincinnati and all that other stuff. Whatever happened. The guys that recruited him are at Tennessee now when I was at Central. They saw something. That strength and conditioning program developed him into being a supreme offensive lineman. And all I'm saying is if you're not strong, tough, and mean, with a nasty disposition as a Michigan offensive lineman, then your running backs are going to have 23 yards. You're only going to finish up with 60 on the ground in 4 quarters, and that's unacceptable. So when you got skill positions that aren't living up to the billing, I love Jeremy Gallen. He's probably the best season we've seen around here in a long time. I like Funchess too, but he's dropping the ball. Like Tom said, there's some toughness issues there. He's not a line up, whoop him tight end, and then stretch the field vertically. He's a hybrid. He's a new school Antonio Gates type that probably can't block a true defensive end, but that's fine. They've moved him around and got him the ball. All I'm saying is strength and conditioning is a major issue in this program, and that's where you better get that resolved, or I don't care what offensive scheme, what offensive coach you have, if those players aren't getting stronger and cannot recreate the line of scrimmage, it's going to be a long day if things don't change.
We got to get to one more break. We'll have Marcus back on the other side. We'll get some more phone calls in as well. Ed, Dave, Joe, you guys are up. We'll return here on the Go Blue Wolverine Radio Hour on Sports Talk 1050 WTKA.